I never thought I'd be the kind of person who counts every penny with this much anxiety. But here I am, at 26, trying to make sense of a world where it feels like money controls everything, and no matter how hard I work, it's always slipping through my fingers. It's this slow, exhausting pressure, like drowning in an ocean that keeps rising faster than I can swim. I wake up every morning with this knot in my stomach, knowing that by the end of the day I'll have to decide whether to pay the electric bill or buy groceries that will last more than 2 days. Some mornings, I sit on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, scrolling through emails from my landlord or reminders from my credit card company. I hate that I've become so familiar with those little red notifications, like there's some kind of cruel punctuation mark at the end of every day. I work a full-time job at a small marketing firm. The hours are long, the pay modest, and the pressure to perform is relentless. But the truth is, the paycheck never feels like enough anymore. Rent keeps climbing, groceries are pricier every week, and utilities feel like a weight that just won't budge. When I started working here 3 years ago, my salary was barely enough to scrape by, but it felt manageable. Now, inflation and cost of living hikes have swallowed every cent of any raise I got. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm stuck in slow motion. I've had to make choices I never imagined I'd face. There was a time when I dreamed of traveling, of saving for a home, of maybe even going back to school to study something I'm passionate about. But now, those dreams seem like luxury fantasies, the kind people put on vision boards but never really expect to chase. Instead, my goals have shrunk to the size of keeping my bank account from dipping below zero or finding a second job that won't burn me out completely. Sometimes, I skip meals or buy the cheapest food I can find, even if it makes me feel tired and weak. I've stopped going out with friends because the cost of dinner or a movie adds up too fast. When they invite me, I lie and say I'm busy or too tired. The truth is, I'm ashamed. Ashamed that I can't keep up, ashamed that my financial situation keeps me isolated. I see their lives moving forward, buying new things, going on vacations, living freely, while I'm stuck putting off even the smallest indulgences. The bills come in thick envelopes or emails that pile up faster than I can pay them. Sometimes, I sit at my kitchen table with a stack of letters and try to figure out which ones I have to prioritize. It feels like playing a cruel game where every decision costs me something, whether it's my credit score, my peace of mind, or my dignity. And no matter how many times I remind myself to breathe, to stay calm, the panic creeps in. What if something unexpected happens? A medical bill, a car repair, a friend who needs help? I don't have the cushion anymore to handle those what-ifs. The economic environment is like this invisible storm I can't outrun. The news talks about inflation, recession fears, and rising interest rates, but those terms barely register as anything but background noise. The real impact is in my everyday, choosing between the medicine I need and the groceries I can afford, or watching my savings vanish because the rent went up again. It's demoralizing. Sometimes I wonder if this is how it's going to be forever, this endless balancing act with no finish line in sight. I try to find ways to cope. I meditate occasionally, trying to quiet the noise in my head, though it's hard when there's so much weighing on me. I keep a journal, writing down my frustrations and small victories, like finally managing to negotiate a late fee or finding a discount on a necessary purchase. Those little wins keep me going, but they feel so small compared to the scale of what I'm dealing with. There's a part of me that's angry at the system that seems designed to keep people like me stuck in this cycle. People working hard but never quite getting ahead. I know it's not just me, that millions are struggling too, but that doesn't make the isolation any less real. I'm tired of feeling like I'm fighting a losing battle, tired of the exhaustion that comes from living in survival mode every single day. Yet, amid all this, I still hold on to hope. Hope that one day I'll catch a break, that I'll find a job that pays enough to cover more than just the basics, that I can save enough to feel secure. I dream of a future where I don't have to calculate every expense or postpone doctor's visits because of the cost. Maybe one day I'll be able to go back to school or travel somewhere new without guilt or fear hanging over me. I don't know how I'll get there yet, but I keep putting one foot in front of the other. I remind myself that these struggles don't define me, even when it feels like they do. I'm more than my bank balance or the mounting bills. I'm someone who's trying, despite everything, to build a life that feels worth living. Living under constant financial pressure has changed me, made me more cautious, more resilient, but also more vulnerable than I ever wanted to be. It's a strange mix of fear and determination, despair and hope. And for now, that's enough to keep me moving forward, even when the weight feels unbearable. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd feel so small in a world that's supposed to be mine. At 27, I imagined I'd have more freedom, more options, more control over where my life was heading. Instead, most days feel like a slow crawl through molasses, everything sticky, heavy, and exhausting. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers in a bank account, it's a weight that seeps into every decision, every moment, and eventually, every hope I have. I live in a city that's always been expensive, but in the last few years, the cost of living has gone through the roof. Rent alone takes more than half my paycheck. Utilities, groceries, transit, they all keep creeping up. My salary? It's barely budged. Raises are minimal, if I get them at all. It's like being on a treadmill that speeds up every time I think I'm gaining ground. No matter how fast I run, I'm stuck in place. Or worse, I'm slipping backwards. Every month, I sit down with my spreadsheet, the one I update religiously to track income and expenses, and I watch the numbers battle it out. Rent $1 $200. Utilities $150. Groceries $1 $300. Phone, internet, transit, medical bills, insurance, every line item feels like a claw tightening around my chest. Then I add up my income and try to figure out where the rest goes. Spoiler, it disappears, and there's never enough left for anything beyond the essentials. I can't remember the last time I bought something just because I wanted it. Clothes, gadgets, eating out, trips with friends, those are dreams on hold. The thought of a weekend getaway feels almost laughable, like a luxury for people who have the mental and financial space to breathe. I'm still paying off a small student loan that never seems to shrink, and credit card debt I picked up during a particularly rough stretch. It's embarrassing, but admitting it out loud somehow makes it feel less like a shameful secret and more like a shared burden. Some days, the stress sneaks up on me like a storm cloud. I lie awake at night, thinking about bills due next week, or that unexpected car repair I can't afford. I think about the savings I'm supposed to be building for emergencies or retirement, but I don't have the energy to imagine that far ahead. It feels like trying to save water with a leaky bucket. The harder I try, the more the cracks widen. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I'm constantly juggling anxiety and frustration. There's this gnawing feeling of being trapped in a system that's designed to keep me running but never getting anywhere. I see headlines about inflation and wage stagnation, about corporate greed and economic policies that favor the rich, and it makes me feel powerless. I'm a cog in a machine that doesn't care if I'm struggling. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm just invisible. But it's not just about money. It's about the impact this pressure has on my relationships, my sense of self, and my dreams. I've had to say no to friends more times than I can count, no to dinners out, concerts, weekend trips, because I can't justify the cost. I miss the connection, but I can't risk the extra expense. It's isolating, and that loneliness only adds to the weight. And then there are the dreams I've had to tuck away. I wanted to travel more, see new places, learn new languages, maybe even take a class or two just for fun. I dreamed about moving to a bigger place, having a pet, or starting my own business someday. But those dreams feel like luxury items I can't afford, so they sit in a dusty box in the back of my mind. Sometimes I think about what my life would look like if money weren't an obstacle, if I had the freedom to chase passions instead of just survival. Coping isn't easy. I try to find small pockets of peace, a walk in the park, a good book, connecting with friends over a video call. I remind myself that this is temporary, even if it doesn't feel like it. I'm learning to budget ruthlessly, to cut corners where I can without sacrificing my health. I lean on the little joys that don't cost a thing, a morning coffee made at home, a deep breath, a moment of gratitude for the roof over my head and the job I have, even if it's not perfect. But most of all, I'm trying to hold on to hope. Hope that one day, my hard work will pay off. Hope that wages will catch up with costs. Hope that economic systems will shift to be more humane. Hope that I can rebuild my dreams, not as distant fantasies but as real, tangible goals. I tell myself that this struggle isn't the end of my story, it's just a tough chapter. And maybe, just maybe, telling it openly, without shame, is the first step to finding a way out. For now, I keep going, because I have to. Because giving up isn't an option, even if it feels like the easiest one some days. I'm trapped in this system, yes, but I'm still here. Still fighting. Still dreaming, even if the dreams are quieter, smaller, and harder to reach. But they're there. And that's something. This is what living with ongoing financial pressure really feels like, an endless balancing act on a tightening rope. And every day, I choose to keep my feet moving forward, even when the ground feels like it might give way beneath me. I never thought I'd find myself feeling this trapped, like I'm running a race that gets longer every day, but my legs just can't keep up. I'm 26 now, and for most of my adult life, money has felt like this invisible cage, tightening around me bit by bit. It's not that I don't work hard. I do. I've held down jobs that bleed me dry by the time I get home, with little to show for it but exhaustion and an ever-growing stack of bills. But somehow, no matter what I do, the expenses keep growing faster than the money I bring in. And that feeling, that sinking, helpless feeling, is what wakes me up some mornings before my alarm even rings. I remember when I first moved out on my own. I was optimistic, full of dreams, thinking, this is it, I'm finally adulting and doing it my way. But then the reality hit hard. Rent in this city is a joke, except no one's laughing. A tiny studio costs more than half my paycheck every month. Utilities, groceries, phone bills, they all chip away at what's left. And then there's the unexpected, a broken heater during winter, an overdue car repair, medical bills. I never want to think about how I'd cover those if something happened, but it's always looming at the back of my mind. I try to budget. I have an app that tracks every cent I spend, and it's embarrassing how small my fun expenses are. I buy generic brands, I skip social outings, I make meals at home instead of ordering food. Friends invite me out, and I say no more times than I'd like to admit, not because I don't want to be with them, but because even a $15 dinner feels like a luxury I can't afford. I can feel myself growing distant from them, but it feels like the only way to survive. There are days when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is all life has to offer. The endless cycle of working just to pay bills, with nothing left to build anything beyond the next month. It's exhausting in a way I can't really explain. It's not just physical tiredness, it's this heavy, gnawing weight on my spirit, this constant anxiety about what happens if I lose my job, or if rent goes up again, or if some emergency comes out of nowhere. I know other people are struggling too, but that doesn't make it easier for me. Sometimes I feel completely invisible, like my worries don't matter because I'm just a kid or early in my career, but that's no consolation when you're living paycheck to paycheck. I've had to put so many dreams on hold. I used to want to travel, to see the world beyond the city's limits. I thought I'd save enough someday for a trip abroad, maybe visit friends in other countries or just take a break from this constant stress. But every time I try to set aside even a little money for that, something urgent pops up and wipes it out. I wanted to take a course to improve my skills and maybe get a better paying job, but tuition costs make it impossible right now. I've even delayed medical appointments because I can't afford the co-pays, and that scares me more than anything. Despite it all, I try to keep hope alive. I remind myself that this is just a season, even though it feels like a storm with no end in sight. Sometimes, late at night, I allow myself to dream, not just of money, but of freedom. Freedom to not worry about bills every second, freedom to say yes to friends, freedom to save without feeling guilty. I imagine a day when my income finally outpaces expenses, when I can build a little safety net and maybe even start thinking about a home of my own. That day feels far away, but it's the only thing that keeps me going. I also try to find small pockets of joy. Sometimes, it's watching the sunrise with a cheap cup of coffee, or taking a walk in the park when the air feels fresh and light. Those moments remind me that life isn't just about money, even though it often feels that way. I talk about this stuff with close friends when I can be honest, and it helps. Knowing I'm not alone in this struggle makes the weight a little lighter. The economic system we live in feels designed to keep people like me just barely afloat. It's a slow grind that erodes your confidence, your self-worth, and your dreams. But I'm still here, still pushing forward, even when it's hard to see the light. Because giving up would mean accepting that this trap defines me, and I refuse to let that happen. For now, I'll keep juggling the bills, cutting back where I can, and dreaming of a better future. Someday, I hope, that future will be more than just a fragile hope. Until then, I live this honest, vulnerable truth, one paycheck, one bill, one moment at a time. I never thought I'd find myself here, awake at 2 a.m., scrolling through bank statements on my phone, trying to piece together how every penny disappears before the month even really begins. The rent, groceries, bills, the damn subscription I forgot to cancel, all stacking up like bricks pressing down on my chest. It's like I'm caught in a loop where expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and no matter how hard I try, the finish line just moves farther away. I'm 26. I have a full-time job, a degree, and yet, I constantly feel like I'm treading water in a stormy sea. I see people around me talking about buying homes, going on trips, investing in their futures. Meanwhile, I'm here figuring out whether I can afford the bus fare next week or if I'll have to skip a meal to pay the electric bill. It's exhausting, this invisible weight that no one really talks about but everyone seems to carry in some shape or form. Every morning, I wake up hoping today will be different. I go through the motions, shower, coffee, get dressed, put on a smile. I try not to let it show, the tight knot in my stomach, the flicker of panic when I think about unexpected costs. My job pays enough to cover the basics, just barely. But then the rent creeps up, groceries get more expensive, and utility bills climb as the seasons change. It's like the cost of living is a tide that keeps rising, and I'm stuck in this tiny boat with no way to bail out water fast enough. I think the worst part is the feeling of being trapped. I remember when I was a kid, dreaming about the future, owning a place of my own, traveling, even just not worrying about money all the time. But now, those dreams feel distant, like stars too far away to ever reach. Every time I try to save a little, something urgent comes up, a car repair, a medical bill, or simply a week where my hours got cut. It's like the universe is testing me, or maybe just indifferent to the struggle. There are days when I feel ashamed. I scroll through social media and see friends posting about new gadgets, nights out, or weekend getaways. I want to be happy for them, but it stings. I want those things too, the freedom to spend without counting every cent, the ability to say yes to plans without worrying about what I'll have to sacrifice next. But I can't. Not yet. And sometimes, it feels like admitting that out loud is admitting failure. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Some days I feel determined, plotting budgets and looking for side gigs. Other days, I'm overwhelmed, sinking into a fog of anxiety and self-doubt. The pressure isn't just financial, it gnaws at my confidence and colors my relationships. I hesitate to ask for help or even to share how tough things are, because I don't want to seem weak or like I'm making excuses. But keeping it inside makes everything heavier. I've learned to cope in small ways. Cooking at home instead of ordering out, cutting back on little luxuries, or finding comfort in free things, a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, or late-night calls with close friends. These small moments feel like lifelines. Sometimes, I remind myself that this is temporary, even though it doesn't always feel that way. One of the hardest sacrifices has been postponing my dreams. I used to imagine traveling abroad after saving enough, but now even a weekend trip feels like a luxury I can't justify. I wanted to take courses to upgrade my skills, hoping that would lead to a better job, but tuition fees and living expenses make that impossible right now. Even things like seeing a therapist or investing in my mental health get pushed aside because they don't seem affordable. But despite all this, I hold on to hope. I tell myself that better days are possible. That maybe, if I keep working, keep pushing, I'll find a way out of this cycle. I'm trying to be patient with myself, to recognize that this struggle doesn't define me. It's part of my story, but it's not the whole story. Writing this out, I realize I'm not alone. There are so many others out there fighting the same battle, caught between a system that seems built to keep us struggling and the desire to live fully. Maybe sharing this helps, even if just a little, because the truth is, it's okay to feel vulnerable, to admit when things are hard, and to keep dreaming anyway. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach, like a weight pressing down on my chest before I even open my eyes. It's not just the usual anxiety about work or life, it's the gnawing dread of money, always money. The bills waiting in my inbox, the creeping rent prices, the grocery store that never feels cheap enough. It's this relentless pressure that shadows every choice I make, every breath I take. I'm 26, living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment that's too expensive for its size, in a city where the cost of living skyrockets every year. I work full-time at a job that barely covers my expenses, let alone lets me save. I used to dream about the future, traveling, owning a home, starting a family someday, but those dreams feel further and further away, like a ship drifting past the horizon. Every day feels like walking a tightrope, balancing on a wire made thinner by rising prices and stagnant wages. I stretch my paycheck as far as it can go, clipping coupons, buying groceries on sale, skipping the occasional meal out, or declining invitations because I can't afford it. I've become a master of budgeting, but no matter how tight I hold the reins, the expenses keep outpacing my income. It's maddening, this feeling of being trapped. The system feels rigged, costs go up, wages don't keep up, and debt piles on. Every month I hope to save a little, just a tiny cushion for emergencies, but something always comes up, a broken appliance, a surprise medical bill, or just the rent hike that no one warned me about until it was too late. The emotional toll is exhausting. Sometimes, I catch myself feeling hopeless, wondering if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm just unlucky. It's hard to stay motivated when it seems like the finish line keeps moving farther away. I get anxious just opening my bank app, scared to see that number drop closer to zero. I've lost sleep over this, lying awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining worst-case scenarios. But I try to cope. I lean on small routines that give me a sense of control. Making a cup of cheap coffee in the morning, going for walks in the park, listening to music that soothes my restless mind. I remind myself to be grateful for what I do have, a steady job, a roof over my head, friends who understand. I try to hold on to hope even when it's hard. Sometimes, I fantasize about what life could be if money weren't a constant worry. Maybe I'd go back to school, pursue a career I'm passionate about instead of one that pays the bills. Maybe I'd finally book that trip to see places I've only seen in pictures. Maybe I'd save enough to move somewhere quieter, kinder to my budget and my soul. But for now, those are just dreams postponed indefinitely. Instead, I focus on the small victories, paying off a credit card, resisting the urge to buy something unnecessary, making it through the month without going into overdraft. These little wins keep me going, even if the bigger picture still feels out of reach. Living in this economy has made me realize how fragile stability is. How easily one unexpected expense can topple the whole balance. How exhausting it is to fight a system that doesn't seem designed for people like me. But I hold on to a stubborn thread of hope that things can get better. That someday, the weight will lift, and I can breathe freely again. Until then, I keep moving forward, step by step, doing my best to survive in a world where expenses grow faster than my paycheck, and dreaming quietly of a future where I am finally free. I wake up every morning with this knot in my stomach, not the kind you can shake off with coffee or a morning jog, but the heavy, gnawing kind that comes from knowing that today, like every day, I have to face the same relentless pressure. It's this feeling that no matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, I'm stuck in a cycle where my expenses rise faster than my income ever could. It's like being trapped in a slow-moving storm where the walls keep closing in a little more every day. I'm 27, technically a young adult, but honestly, I feel way older when it comes to money. Since graduating college, I imagined things would get easier, a steady job, maybe a little saving, some freedom to breathe. But the reality is different. The cost of living has ballooned, rent especially. I moved from a small studio I could barely afford to a cramped shared apartment because even that tiny space was a stretch. Utilities, groceries, transit, phone bills, it all piles up, and none of it waits for me to catch up. Most mornings, I skip breakfast. It's not because I don't want to eat, I do, desperately, but because a $3 coffee and a bagel add up when I'm trying to stretch every dollar. Instead, I grab whatever I can find at home, usually some cereal or just a piece of fruit. It's a small sacrifice, but it's emblematic of how my daily choices have shrunk to fit into this narrow financial lane. I can't afford to be spontaneous. Want to grab a drink with friends? Sorry, I'm broke. Think about taking a weekend trip to clear your head? Not possible. The idea of treating myself feels like a distant luxury from another life. Every paycheck feels like a temporary reprieve, a brief moment where I can breathe before the bills come flooding in again. And then, of course, there are unexpected expenses. My phone needed a new screen recently, my laptop started acting up, and I had to choose between fixing it or cutting back even more on essentials. I fixed the laptop because it's how I work. But those choices wear you down emotionally. You start feeling like you're constantly sacrificing pieces of your life, your comfort, your dignity, just to keep the basics intact. There's this constant background anxiety, the kind that sneaks up on you in quiet moments. It gnaws at your confidence and makes you second-guess every decision. Should I apply for that new job even if it pays less but offers better hours? Can I ask my family for help without feeling like a failure? Should I finally open that credit card to manage the gap, even knowing it could snowball? These questions haunt me, because none of the answers feel good. The system is set up in a way that makes me feel like I'm always one emergency away from disaster. Emotionally, it's exhausting. Sometimes I just want to scream or cry, but instead, I put on a brave face. I tell myself, this is temporary. Things will get better. But the longer this goes on, the harder it is to believe that. It's like trying to run a race while carrying a backpack full of rocks. You see the finish line, but every step forward feels like 2 steps back. It's isolating, too. People around me seem to be moving forward, buying homes, starting families, investing in their futures, while I'm stuck trying to make rent and keep my head above water. I cope by finding small moments of joy wherever I can. Sometimes it's binge watching a favorite show at home, or taking a walk in the park when the weather's nice. I write in a journal, trying to keep track of my thoughts, my frustrations, my hopes. It's a way to remind myself that I'm more than my financial situation. I'm trying to hold on to that identity, even when the world feels like it's crushing me down. My dreams have had to wait, buying a home, traveling to new countries, even thinking about going back to school for that career shift I've wanted. I have this long list of someday goals, but someday keeps moving further away. It's hard to plan for the future when you're focused on surviving the present. The pressure makes me wonder if I'll ever have the freedom to live the life I imagined. But despite all this, I'm still hopeful. I know I'm not alone, and that somehow, I have to keep pushing. Sometimes, that hope is fragile, barely enough to hold on to. But it's there. Because giving up means accepting that this pressure will define me forever, and I refuse to let that happen. It's late again, the kind of late where the city's hum softens to a distant whisper, and all I can hear is the quiet gnawing in my chest. I'm sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at a pile of unopened bills on the floor beside me. They're nothing new, electricity, internet, rent, credit card statements, but somehow, every month, they feel heavier, like an invisible weight pressing harder on my shoulders. I'm 27, living alone in a tiny studio apartment in a city that's growing too fast for people like me. People who don't have family wealth, who don't have safety nets. I work full-time, sometimes extra shifts, but it barely feels like enough. The paycheck arrives, and almost before it's in my hands, it's already halfway gone. Rent alone takes a third of my income. The rest? Utilities, groceries, gas for my aging car, and the leftover bits to keep myself alive and well, or at least as well as I can manage. Some days, I wonder if this is what it means to be stuck. I didn't always think this way. A few years ago, I had plans. Big ones. I wanted to travel, maybe study something creative, photography or writing. I dreamed of waking up in a sunlit room, making coffee, and sitting by a window that looked out onto trees, not concrete. But every time I try to imagine that life now, it feels so far away, like it belongs to someone else entirely. The economic world is spinning faster than I can keep up. Prices rise, but my paycheck is stubbornly stagnant. Inflation isn't just a number I see on the news, it's the constant tightening of my budget. The grocery store where I used to buy fresh veggies now feels like a minefield. I have to hunt for sales, clip coupons, or settle for less nutritious options because they're cheaper. I've become an expert at rationing. One less meal out, one fewer coffee treat, cutting my thermostat down until my fingers are numb in winter. These small sacrifices add up, but they don't solve the bigger problem. The gap between what I make and what I need keeps widening. Sometimes I feel like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while my legs grow weaker. There's this awful, helpless feeling that creeps in when I think about the future. What's waiting for me there? A bigger apartment? A better job? A chance to breathe easier? It's like trying to grasp fog. I know I want more, better stability, maybe a home of my own one day, but every step forward feels swallowed by the weight of expenses I can't control. The system feels rigged. It's this invisible machine where costs rise faster than wages, where health insurance premiums jump up and up, where job security feels like a myth. Sometimes I wonder if anyone out there actually understands this cycle, this quiet grind of making choices between essentials, of postponing dreams because they're luxuries I can't afford right now. The emotional toll is heavy. I'm constantly anxious. Will I have enough to cover rent next month? Should I skip the doctor's appointment? Can I really justify replacing my worn-out shoes? Sleep is a restless stranger. I lie awake, scrolling through social media, seeing friends post their weekend trips or new apartments, and feeling a pang of envy that's hard to admit out loud. Not because I'm bitter, but because I'm tired. Tired of explaining why I can't join them, tired of saying no again and again, tired of feeling like I'm falling behind while the world races ahead. Coping is a daily battle. I try to find small joys, listening to music, going for walks in the park, connecting with friends who understand. I remind myself that I'm not alone, that others are fighting the same uphill battle. Sometimes I write in a journal to get it all out, my frustrations, my hopes, my fears. It helps, even if just a little. Meditation and deep breaths have become tools for moments when anxiety threatens to take over. I've had to postpone so much. Taking classes to finish my degree, saving for a real vacation, investing in hobbies that once brought me joy. I tell myself it's temporary, but some nights the word temporary feels like a lie I'm telling myself to keep going. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. Not the naive kind, but a quiet, stubborn hope. I dream of a day when I don't have to count every penny. When I can breathe without this constant pressure. When my worth isn't tied to how much money I make or how frugal I can be. Maybe I'll find a better job or a way to make my passions pay the bills. Maybe the world will change, and policies will shift to make life easier for people like me. Or maybe, just maybe, I'll learn to live fully in spite of it all. For now, I keep moving forward, one paycheck at a time, one small decision after another, trying to build a life that feels like mine, even if it's tangled with stress and sacrifice. I'm learning that resilience isn't about never falling, it's about standing up, again and again, even when the system feels impossible to beat. And sometimes, that's enough. I never thought I'd feel this way by the time I hit my mid-20s, constantly weighed down, caught in this endless loop where every step forward feels like 2 steps back. It's like the world expects you to be building your life, chasing your dreams, and somehow, on the side, balancing a mountain of bills that keep growing no matter how hard you try. The truth is, the economic pressure I live with isn't just a number on a screen or a monthly statement, it's the quiet, gnawing anxiety that wakes me up at night, that colors every decision I make, and that makes me question if I'll ever really get ahead. I graduated college with a decent degree and what I thought was a promising job offer. But from day one, the paycheck didn't stretch the way I'd imagined it would. Rent alone swallows almost half my income. And rent's just the start. Utilities, groceries, health insurance, student loan payments, transportation costs, phone bills, all these essentials pile up like relentless waves, pushing me under. Meanwhile, inflation keeps pushing prices higher, faster than any raise I've managed to secure. Every month I cross my fingers, hoping the increase in my salary will catch up, but it never does. Somehow, the cost of living outruns me no matter how fast I run. It's a suffocating feeling, like being trapped inside a box that keeps shrinking. When I was a kid, I used to dream about independence, traveling, starting a business, maybe even owning a home. Those dreams feel so distant now, as if they belong to someone else's life. Instead, my reality is filled with careful calculations. Should I skip the doctor's appointment this month to save on copay? Can I really afford to fill my gas tank, or should I risk running on fumes? Is it smarter to buy the cheaper groceries and miss out on nutrition, or stretch my budget thin and risk the next unexpected expense? Every choice is a tightrope walk, where the stakes aren't just convenience, but my very stability. The pressure takes a toll on my mental health, too. I didn't expect to feel this kind of stress at my age, but it's real and raw. The shame of not having enough, the embarrassment when friends invite me out and I have to say no, again. Sometimes I catch myself avoiding calls or texts because I can't explain why I'm exhausted or why I seem distant. There's this constant hum of worry buzzing in the background of my mind, even in moments when I try to relax. It makes it hard to focus, hard to be present, and hard to keep hope alive. I cope the best I can. I've learned to budget with almost surgical precision, tracking every cent, cutting out luxuries, hunting for sales, cooking all my meals at home, canceling subscriptions, even taking on side gigs when possible. Sometimes, it feels like I'm juggling too many balls, but I'm afraid to drop any because each one represents some aspect of survival. Still, there are days when the exhaustion wins, when I feel like I'm running on empty. I remind myself it's temporary, but the months stretch into years and the finish line keeps moving farther away. And yet, despite all this, I hold on to small sparks of hope. I've started to think about financial education more seriously, learning about investments and ways to build a cushion for the future. I've made tentative plans to go back to school or pursue certifications that might boost my earning potential, even though it feels like a risk I can barely afford to take. My dreams haven't disappeared, they're just on hold, buried under the day-to-day struggle. I remind myself that life isn't a race, that it's okay to move at my own pace, even if that pace feels frustratingly slow. I hope, one day, to break free from this pressure. To live without the constant fear that a single missed paycheck could spiral into disaster. To afford moments of joy without guilt. To finally make choices driven by passion instead of survival. Until then, I keep going, small steps, careful breaths, and an unspoken promise to myself that I won't give up. Because if anything, this experience has taught me resilience, and a deeper appreciation for the simple things most people take for granted. Being trapped in this system where expenses grow faster than income is heartbreaking, but it's also a story shared by so many of us. I'm not alone, and maybe sharing this truth is the first step toward change, not just for me, but for all of us trying to build a life under the weight of economic pressure. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I wake up every morning to the same uneasy feeling, that sinking pit in my stomach that whispers, "Here we go again," the weight of bills, rent, groceries, and debts pressing on me before I even get out of bed. It's like the world is running this relentless marathon, but I'm stuck dragging a heavy chain behind me. The chain? My expenses. They keep growing, but my paycheck, well, it barely inches forward. It's a cruel joke, and some days, it feels like I'm the punchline. I'm 27, and when I was a kid, I imagined by now I'd have a stable job, maybe a little apartment I could call my own, and enough savings to feel safe. Instead, I'm here in a cramped shared apartment, juggling a part-time job and a gig here and there, praying that nothing unexpected breaks or comes due. Every dollar I earn feels like a lifeline, but it slips through my fingers faster than I can hold on to it. The economic environment, well, it's like a storm that never stops. Rent prices climb like they're trying to reach the sky, groceries get more expensive every week, and even things like my phone bill or internet seem to sneakily inflate with no end in sight. Meanwhile, my income? It's almost frozen in time. Sometimes I think, am I working hard enough? But deep down, I know it's not about me, it's about the system that's built to keep us all spinning our wheels, running faster just to stand still. Every choice I make is filtered through that financial pressure. Should I take the bus and save $2.50, or risk being late to work because of the unreliable schedule? Can I afford to see a friend this weekend, or is it better to save that money for a month's groceries? Should I cook at home and eat the same thing for days, or spend a little extra on food that makes me feel human again? These small decisions pile up, and the weight of them exhausts me. Some days, I feel like I'm trapped in a maze with no exit. I see people around me buying new cars, moving into nicer places, going on vacations, and I wonder if that's just a different universe where I don't belong. I tell myself stories to cope, maybe someday I'll be there too, maybe it's just temporary. But the truth is, the longer this goes on, the harder it is to hold on to hope. Emotionally, this constant financial pressure eats away at me. There's a quiet shame in not being able to provide more for myself or those I care about. I've become so used to postponing dreams that sometimes I forget what those dreams even look like. I wanted to travel, to see new places, meet new people, and break out of this cycle. I wanted to take classes, learn skills that could push me forward. I wanted a cozy home filled with plants and books and music. But all of that feels like a luxury now, a distant shore that's out of reach. I've learned to cope in small ways. I find comfort in routines, making coffee just right in the morning, walking in the park when I can, calling my mom even when I don't have the energy to talk much. Sometimes, I treat myself to a cheap snack or a movie night at home to remind myself I deserve some joy. But even these moments are tinged with guilt that I'm spending money, guilt that I'm not doing more. And yet, despite everything, I'm still here. I'm still trying. Because giving up would mean surrendering to this system that's already designed to keep people like me down. I hold on to the small victories, a day without a missed bill, a shift where I felt proud of my work, a friend who listens without judgment. These are the sparks that keep the dark at bay. I don't know exactly what the future holds. Maybe the economy will change, maybe my job situation will improve. Maybe someday I'll look back on this period as a hard chapter that made me stronger. For now, I just try to keep moving forward, one careful, tired step at a time. If I could say anything to someone listening, it would be this: financial pressure is not just numbers on a page. It's a daily battle that shapes how we feel about ourselves and the world. It's the quiet fear that no matter how hard we work, it might never be enough. But even in that struggle, there's resilience, a stubborn hope that we deserve more, that our dreams are worth fighting for, even if we have to wait a little longer. And maybe that's enough, for now. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who counts pennies to the point where every meal feels like a gamble. Yet, here I am, sitting at my small kitchen table, a faded receipt in hand, wondering if I can stretch my grocery budget just a bit more this week. The numbers never add up the way I want them to. They just keep slipping further away, like sand through my fingers. I'm 27 years old, working a steady job that pays a little above minimum wage. On paper, I'm employed, independent, adulting, but the truth feels so much messier. Every month, the bills come: rent, utilities, phone, internet, groceries, transit, and each one feels heavier than the last. It's like trying to fill a bucket that's got holes in it. No matter how hard I work or how careful I am, the water just drains away faster than I can pour it in. The economic environment isn't kind. Inflation has turned ordinary things, milk, bread, gas, into luxury items. It's exhausting. I watch prices climb like a relentless tide, but my paycheck stays the same. Or sometimes, it even feels like it shrinks because I'm forced to pick up extra shifts at odd hours, and the fatigue eats away my focus and energy. There's no such thing as a financial cushion anymore. Savings are a distant dream, an abstract idea I read about in blogs but never quite experience. I try to budget meticulously. I jot down every expense, no matter how small. The coffee I grab before work on an especially brutal morning, the $5 on a streaming subscription I can't seem to cancel, the bus fare that's creeping up. It's a mental math game that never ends. Sometimes I lie awake at night, calculating how many days I can survive if I skip a meal or walk instead of taking the bus. But the anxiety never leaves, and it gnaws at me like a constant low-grade hunger. There's this deep, suffocating feeling of being trapped. Like I'm running on a treadmill set to a speed I can't control. No matter how fast I go, I don't get anywhere new. The system feels rigged, expenses rise faster than wages, debts pile up, and opportunities slip out of reach. I watch friends buy homes, travel, start businesses, and I wonder if I'm just missing some secret I'll never learn. Or if it's luck, or privilege, that they have what I don't. I've had to postpone dreams that once felt so real. I used to imagine living in a cozy apartment with space for a little garden, adopting a dog, maybe going back to school for something I love rather than just what pays. I wanted to take a trip somewhere far away, to see the world beyond my city's gray skyline. But those dreams feel distant now, more like whispers from a past version of myself. Emotionally, this constant pressure weighs on me in ways I struggle to explain. There are days when I feel numb, just going through the motions. Other days, it spirals into sadness and frustration. Why is it so hard just to live? I feel isolated because I can't always talk about this with family or friends. There's shame tied to money struggles, as if not having enough is a personal failure. But I know I'm not alone. There are so many people caught in this same cycle, quietly fighting their own battles. To cope, I hold on to small rituals. Cooking at home instead of eating out, even if it means simpler meals. Taking evening walks to clear my mind. Journaling my worries to get them out of my head. Sometimes, I reach out to online communities where people share tips on budgeting or just vent about the same frustrations. Those moments of connection remind me that I'm not invisible. I try to focus on what I can control, even if it feels like very little. I'm learning new skills online, hoping to improve my job prospects. I'm trying to be kinder to myself when things don't go as planned. And I keep my dreams alive in small ways, like bookmarking places I want to visit someday or planning what I'd do if I ever had a little more freedom. The future still feels uncertain, but I'm holding on to hope, even if it's fragile. I want to believe that one day, the system will shift. That wages will catch up to expenses. That I'll find a way out of this financial squeeze and live with a little more peace. For now, I take it one day at a time, trying to find light in the struggle, even when it feels like the weight is just too much. Being young and struggling financially isn't just about money. It's about fighting to keep your dignity and your dreams alive in a world that often seems designed to hold you back. I'm tired, but I'm still here. And somehow, that feels like a quiet kind of strength. It's hard to explain what it feels like to live in a world where your money seems to slip through your fingers no matter how tightly you try to hold on. I'm 27, working full-time, and yet every month feels like a losing battle, a balancing act on a fraying tightrope where one wrong step means falling behind. I thought by this age I'd have some stability, maybe even a bit of freedom. Instead, I'm trapped in a loop of constant financial pressure that never lets up, no matter how hard I hustle. I wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach. It's not just the stress of the day ahead, but the weight of knowing that my paycheck will barely cover what's due. Rent is the biggest chunk. If it jumps even a little, I have no wiggle room. Utilities, groceries, phone bills, transportation, they're all creeping up steadily. The cost of living rises, but my income? It's like it's stuck on pause. Maybe it's the economy, maybe it's the job market, but it feels like everything is working against me. This economic environment we're living in isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet or headlines on the news. It's real. It's palpable. It seeps into every corner of my life, dictating my choices and shaping my emotions. Some days I stare at my bank account, willing it to multiply, willing it to fix itself somehow. But it doesn't. I remind myself I'm not alone, friends are feeling the same pinch, but that doesn't ease the loneliness of the struggle. Every decision I make feels weighted by money. Should I get a coffee on the way to work or just stick to water? Should I say yes to hanging out with friends even though I can't really afford it, or isolate myself to save a few bucks? Should I buy groceries now or hold off until the next paycheck, even if it means skipping meals sometimes? These choices aren't about indulgence or luxury, they're about survival and sanity. It's exhausting. There's this sinking feeling of being caught in a system that's rigged against people like me. Expenses keep growing faster than my income, and the gap widens each month. I'm working longer hours, sometimes picking up side gigs just to keep afloat, but it never feels like enough. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up the more you run, and no matter how fast you go, you're stuck in the same place. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There's anxiety and frustration, sometimes so intense it feels like it's eating me alive. There's shame, too. I catch myself feeling like a failure for not being able to make it despite working so hard. And then there's the fear of what happens if I fall behind, if an emergency comes up, if I lose this job or get sick. That fear keeps me awake more nights than I can count. But I try to cope. I've learned to live with less, to find joy in small, inexpensive moments. I've started cooking more at home, not just to save money but to feel like I have some control. I've taken up running, not just for health but as a way to clear my mind and escape the pressure for a little while. I write in a journal sometimes, just to get the swirling thoughts out of my head and onto paper. Those moments of quiet help remind me that I'm still me beyond the paycheck and bills. Still, I've had to postpone dreams. I used to imagine traveling, buying a car, maybe going back to school for a master's degree. Those things feel like distant luxuries now, goals shoved to the back burner while I focus on getting through the next month. The idea of saving for a down payment on a house feels almost laughable. How can I save when I'm barely covering rent? The future I dreamed of seems blurry, overshadowed by the daily grind. And yet, despite all this, I hold on to hope. I believe that change is possible, that the system can be better, that my situation isn't permanent. I remind myself that I'm not defined by my bank balance or the weight of financial stress. I try to celebrate the small wins, paying a bill on time, getting through a tough week, finding a moment of peace. Those victories keep me going. Living with this kind of ongoing financial pressure is a raw, vulnerable experience. It's a daily negotiation between survival and dreams, frustration and hope, exhaustion and resilience. I don't have all the answers, and some days it feels overwhelming, but I'm still here, still fighting, still believing there's something better on the horizon. Because what else can I do? This is my story, not just about money, but about the human spirit trying to thrive despite the odds stacked against it. I never thought I'd be writing about money like this, like it's some constant shadow that follows me everywhere, a weight pressing down so heavily that sometimes I can barely breathe. But here I am, and I guess I have to be honest about it, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm 26 now, living in a city where everything seems to be getting more expensive by the week. Rent, groceries, utilities, transportation, nothing stays steady. It's like there's this invisible race happening, and I'm stuck on the treadmill, running faster and faster, but never moving forward. My paycheck grows too, yes, but barely. Not nearly enough to keep pace with the rising costs of living. So each month feels like this balancing act, constantly juggling bills and trying not to fall. I grew up with my parents always stressing about money. Not starving or anything dramatic, but always careful, always cautious. I thought once I was out on my own, things would get easier. Maybe I'd get a better job, move to a nicer place, finally feel like I was building something solid. But no. The truth is harsher. The cost of living climbed way faster than my income. It feels like the system is rigged, expenses keep growing faster than I can earn, and it's not because I'm lazy or not trying hard enough. It's just the reality we're all living. Every morning, I wake up and think about money. Not in some casual way, but in a knot in my stomach, pit in my chest way. Should I buy coffee or save that $3? Is it okay to get a few things from the grocery store this week, or should I stick strictly to basics? I try to remind myself that small expenses add up, but the math is brutal. A few dollars here and there might not seem like much, but when you're scraping by, it's everything. I have this part-time job in retail and a freelance gig writing online articles, but even together, the money barely stretches. There are weeks when I have to choose between filling up my gas tank or paying for groceries. I've taken to biking whenever I can, but that's not always practical, especially in bad weather. I've cut out streaming subscriptions, stopped eating out entirely, and canceled plans with friends because it costs money to be social. The isolation that comes with that is its own kind of hardship, lonely and exhausting. I remember when I first moved out on my own. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, to explore, to live in a vibrant, creative city. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get a degree in something I loved, something that felt meaningful. Instead, those dreams have been shelved, gathering dust like old books on a shelf. I tell myself, maybe next year, but next year keeps moving further away. It's heartbreaking, really, watching the future you imagined shrink because money keeps slipping through your fingers like water. The stress messes with my head. There are days I wake up feeling exhausted before the day even starts. Anxiety twists around me, a constant companion that makes everything seem heavier. I've started seeing a therapist to help cope with the pressure, but even that costs money, so I have to be careful about how many sessions I can afford. It's ironic, I pay money to talk about how money is stressing me out. I try to stay hopeful, though. I keep telling myself this isn't permanent. I look at people around me who seem to manage, who seem to get ahead. I wonder what they do differently. But maybe it's not about what they do. Maybe it's about luck, about timing, or having a safety net I don't have. It feels unfair, but also beyond my control. Sometimes, late at night, I allow myself to dream again. I imagine a day when I don't have to count every penny, when I can buy fresh vegetables without worrying about the cost, when I can plan a trip or even just a weekend out with friends without calculating the damage to my budget. I imagine a steady, decent-paying job that feels worth waking up for, with health benefits and some kind of security. I imagine peace, financial peace, emotional peace, freedom. But the mornings always come back. I open my laptop, check my bank balance, and remind myself to keep going. To keep making small choices that add up. To hold on to those postponed dreams like fragile lanterns in the dark. This is my reality, not glamorous, not pretty, but honest. Living with the constant pressure of money that never quite stretches far enough. Feeling trapped in a system that seems designed to keep you chasing, but never catching. And still, somehow, hoping. I remember the first time I really felt crushed by money, when I opened my bank app one night, bleary-eyed after a long shift, and saw my balance barely covering the essentials, with rent looming like a shadow that wouldn't leave. It wasn't just numbers on a screen, it was a sinking feeling in my chest, a knot that tightened and refused to loosen. I'm 27, working 2 part-time jobs, and still somehow it feels like the more I work, the less I get ahead. I often wonder if this is just how it's supposed to be, or if I'm missing some secret to making it all work. The economic environment around me is a constant, pressing weight. Every month, bills go up, rent inching higher, groceries getting pricier, the utility company sending notices that make me want to close my eyes and pretend it's not happening. My wages, however, seem stuck in time, like they're frozen in the past while everything else marches forward without me. It's maddening. I try to budget, I really do. I track every dollar, every cent. But the truth is, the expenses grow faster than my income ever could. I'm trapped in this endless cycle where I feel like I'm just treading water, never actually moving toward dry land. Everyday decisions become battles of survival. Do I buy fresh vegetables or settle for canned? Should I spend $4 on a cup of coffee that might make me feel a little less exhausted or save it for the bus fare? Sometimes, I skip meals, not because I want to, but because I have to. Food banks help when I'm desperate, but there's a kind of shame in needing them, even though I know so many others rely on them too. I often watch friends post about going out, traveling, or trying new restaurants, and it feels like I'm living on a different planet altogether. The emotional toll is immense. There's this constant undercurrent of anxiety, a low-level panic that never really switches off. It gnaws at my confidence, making me question if I'm lazy or incapable, even though I work harder than I ever thought I could. Sleep is elusive, sometimes my mind races with worries about overdue bills or what might break next. It's exhausting to carry this invisible weight, day after day. I crave moments of peace but feel guilty for wanting to rest when there's so much to do, so many things to figure out. I've had to postpone dreams that once felt so real and possible. I used to imagine finishing my degree, maybe even moving to a different city, building a life where I wasn't constantly stressed about money. I dreamed about saving for a small apartment, having a little space that was truly mine. But those dreams feel further away every day. Sometimes I catch myself hoping that if I just work a bit harder, or stretch a dollar just a little more, I can inch closer, but the horizon keeps retreating. It's like chasing a sunset that always stays just out of reach. To cope, I hold on to small things. I find comfort in moments with friends who understand, even if it's just talking on the phone late at night. Music helps, a playlist that lifts my mood or calms my nerves. I try to remind myself that this isn't forever, even though it often feels like it might be. Sometimes, I let myself cry quietly, acknowledging the frustration and sadness instead of bottling it up. Writing helps, too, like now, putting words to the struggle makes it feel a little less overwhelming. Despite everything, there's still a flicker of hope. Hope that someday, somehow, things will change. I want to believe that my worth isn't defined by my paycheck or how many bills I can pay on time. I want to believe in a future where I can breathe easier, where money isn't a constant source of fear. Maybe one day, I'll look back at this time and see it as a chapter one survived rather than the whole story. But for now, I keep moving forward, slowly, carefully, and sometimes painfully, because what else can I do? I live day to day, finding strength in the small victories and holding on to the belief that better days are possible, even if they're just a whisper on the wind right now. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, constantly stretched thin, caught in a loop that's impossible to break. Some days, it's just a dull ache in my chest, a background hum of anxiety that never quite lets up. Other days, it's this overwhelming weight that makes even the smallest decisions feel like climbing a mountain. I'm 26, working full-time, trying to keep everything together, but the financial pressure I live under feels like it's crushing me slowly. It's not like I'm reckless with money. I budget obsessively, clip coupons, avoid eating out more than once a month, and walk everywhere I can to save on transportation. But despite all that, it feels like every paycheck is just a little less than the last one in terms of how far it stretches. Rent is the biggest killer. My tiny apartment costs more than I ever imagined I'd pay for such a cramped space, and every year it creeps up. Utilities, groceries, gas, the little things like toothpaste or laundry detergent, they're all getting more expensive. Meanwhile, my salary stays stagnant, barely keeping pace with inflation, which sometimes feels like a cruel joke. There's this constant tension in my chest, like I'm holding my breath just to stay afloat. I get anxious every time I open my bank app, dreading the numbers I'll see. I check my credit card balance with a mix of guilt and fear because I know I shouldn't rely on it, but sometimes there's no other choice. There have been nights where I sit at my kitchen table, bills spread out in front of me, tears quietly sliding down my face because the numbers just don't add up. The fridge hums softly in the background, reminding me that I need to eat, but all I want to do is disappear for a while. The emotional toll is heavy. I feel isolated in this struggle, even though I know so many others are in the same boat. I haven't told many people how bad it's gotten because there's this shame attached to financial hardship, like admitting it means you're failing at adulthood. But the truth is, it's the system that's failing us, wages stuck in place while everything else rises relentlessly. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up with every step, and no matter how fast I run, I'm not getting anywhere. My friends talk about weekend getaways, new gadgets, eating out, and I'm just sitting there nodding, pretending I'm not calculating the cost of a single night out versus what I could save if I stayed home. The social pressure is its own kind of trap. I want to be part of those conversations, but the reality is, my budget doesn't allow for that. It's isolating. Sometimes I turn down invitations not because I don't want to see people, but because I can't afford it. And the worst part? I feel guilty about it, as if my financial limitations make me less worthy of friendship or fun. My dreams have quietly been put on hold. I wanted to travel, to see new places and experience different cultures, to learn and grow outside the small, suffocating bubble. I wanted to buy a home someday, plant roots somewhere stable, maybe even start a family. Instead, I'm just trying to get through the month without falling deeper into debt. I've had to shelve plans for graduate school because even though the program would improve my job prospects, I can't justify the tuition or the lost income from studying full-time. It's heartbreaking to watch the life I imagined slip further away with each passing day. Coping isn't easy, but I've found small ways to survive. I talk to myself, remind myself that this is temporary, even if it doesn't feel like it. I take walks in the park, soaking in the sun and the fresh air, trying to find moments of peace. I write down what I'm grateful for, even if it's just the little things, a kind word from a coworker, the taste of a good cup of coffee, the way my cat curls up next to me at night. Those moments remind me there's still light in the darkness. I'm learning to be honest with myself about my limits and to ask for help when I need it, even if it's just a listening ear. Financial stress has taught me humility and resilience in ways I didn't expect. But sometimes, late at night, I still feel overwhelmed by a deep sadness, a mourning for the life I thought I'd have and the freedom I thought money would bring. I want to believe things will get better. I hold on to the hope that one day, I'll be able to breathe easier, to plan for the future without fear. I dream of a time when my income grows faster than my expenses, when I can build savings instead of just scraping by, when I can treat myself without guilt, and when my financial situation doesn't define my worth or my happiness. For now, I keep going, one day at a time, one paycheck at a time, hoping that the system that feels like a trap today will loosen its grip tomorrow. I'm tired, yes, but not broken. My dreams are just on pause, waiting for the right moment to start again. And maybe that's enough for now. I remember the days when I thought I had everything figured out. Back then, money seemed like just a simple thing, a number that came in, a number that went out, and if I was careful, I'd have enough left to enjoy life a little. But that was before the bills started piling up like an avalanche, before prices rose faster than my paycheck, before the stress of every single dollar became a constant hum in the back of my mind. Now, at 26, it feels like I'm trapped in a cycle that never ends, and the weight of it presses down on me every single day. I work a steady job, 9 to 5, sometimes more if I pick up extra shifts. The pay isn't bad for my age, but it's barely enough to cover the basics. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, they eat up almost everything I earn. And that's not even counting the little emergencies that pop up unexpectedly. A broken phone screen, a car needing repairs, medical copays. I've learned to expect the unexpected, but it doesn't make it any easier. What's worse is watching prices creep up everywhere I turn. Grocery prices have gone up so much that my usual shopping list feels like a luxury now. The rent for my small apartment rose again last month. Every time I think I might have a bit of breathing room, something shifts, and I'm right back where I started. The feeling of being stuck, of no matter how hard I work or how tightly I budget, the gap between what I make and what I need only grows, is suffocating. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, no matter how fast you run. You sweat, you push yourself, but you never get anywhere. Sometimes, when I lie awake at night, the anxiety takes over. What if I lose my job? What if an emergency costs more than I can handle? How will I ever get ahead when every dollar seems to be spent before it even reaches my hands? I used to dream a lot. I dreamed of traveling to places I saw in pictures, of having a home that wasn't just a box with a roof but a space that felt like mine. I dreamed of finishing school and maybe going back for a degree, of finding a job that didn't just pay the bills but gave me purpose and growth. Those dreams still flicker in the back of my mind, but they feel distant, like stars you can see but can't reach. I've had to postpone them, sometimes indefinitely. Saving for a plane ticket feels impossible when I'm scraping by just to keep the lights on. Going back to school feels like a luxury I can't afford when I'm already stretched thin. Every postponed dream chips away a little at my hope. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a constant tension in my chest, a mix of frustration, fear, and sometimes even shame. I feel like I'm failing myself, even though I know I'm doing everything I can. There's a quiet loneliness to it too. Most people don't talk about money struggles openly, and I'm no exception. It feels like an invisible weight that only I carry. I've caught myself avoiding friends because I can't afford to go out. I hesitate to share how bad it's gotten because I don't want to be a burden or sound like I'm complaining. But the truth is, this pressure affects every part of my life, from how I interact with others to how I see myself. Coping has become an art form in itself. I've gotten good at cutting corners, meal prepping instead of eating out, finding second-hand clothes, taking public transportation even when it's inconvenient. I track every expense religiously and search for deals and discounts like it's a full-time job. I try to find moments of joy in small things, a good book, a walk in the park, a phone call with a friend. Those moments keep me grounded. Sometimes, I let myself daydream about a future where I'm not counting pennies, where I have the freedom to make choices based on what I want instead of what I can afford. I want to believe there's a way out of this. I want to believe that if I keep working hard and making smart choices, the system won't keep pushing me down. But part of me wonders if this is the new normal for people like me, young adults who grew up hearing about the American dream but now find it slipping further away. I want to hold on to hope, but it's hard not to feel like the world is designed to keep us running in place, never quite catching up. Some days, I remind myself that I'm not alone. So many people are fighting similar battles, and maybe there's strength in that shared struggle. I try to focus on what I can control, my work ethic, my attitude, my small daily victories. I look for community where I can find it, whether that's online forums, friends who understand, or just quiet solidarity in knowing I'm not the only one feeling trapped. This isn't just about money. It's about dignity, about feeling like I have a chance to build a life that's more than just survival. I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate this maze, how to find peace in the chaos, and how to keep my dreams alive even when they seem so far away. Maybe that's the real challenge, not just the financial pressure, but the emotional resilience it takes to keep moving forward, day by day, in a world that doesn't make it easy. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I feel lost and overwhelmed. But I'm still here, still trying, still hoping that someday, somehow, the weight will lift, and I'll be able to breathe again. Until then, I keep going, one paycheck, one day, one small step at a time. I wake up every morning with the same knot twisting in my stomach, a feeling that's become almost permanent, like a dull ache I carry around. It's not about one single bill or one bad day, it's this endless cycle of worry that never really lets me breathe. I'm 26, but sometimes it feels like I'm already worn out, drained by a system that feels designed to keep me running in place, chasing something that keeps slipping further away. The truth is, money has been tight for as long as I can remember. But lately, it's not just tight, it's suffocating. Rent keeps going up, groceries cost more every week, and things I used to take for granted, like a night out, a decent meal, or even a simple trip to the doctor, have become luxuries I have to think twice about. Every time I look at my bank account, I feel like I'm staring down a cliff edge, wondering how long I can keep my balance before I fall. My job pays the bills, but it's barely enough to keep up with the rising costs. I work hard, sometimes overtime, but the paycheck never seems to stretch far enough. There's this maddening gap between my income and my expenses, and the gap only grows wider as prices climb faster than my raise. I've tried budgeting, cutting out anything that's not essential, no more takeaway coffee, no new clothes, no weekend trips. But no matter what I do, the numbers don't add up the way they used to. It's exhausting, physically, mentally, emotionally. Some days, I just want to cry, but I can't afford to break down. There's no time or space for that. I'm supposed to keep going, keep working, keep pretending I'm okay. But inside, I feel trapped, like I'm stuck in a cage built out of bills and debts, with no clear way out. The system feels rigged, like it's designed so that people like me never quite get ahead, no matter how hard we try. I think about the things I wanted when I was younger. A little apartment of my own, a decent car, maybe a vacation somewhere sunny. I dreamed of going back to school, learning new skills, building a better life. But those dreams have been pushed to the side, postponed indefinitely. How can I even think about extra expenses when I'm just trying to cover rent and food? Even saving feels impossible. Every extra dollar I make seems to vanish into something urgent, a car repair, a medical bill, or just the rising cost of everyday things. Sometimes I lie awake at night, the silence broken only by the ticking of the clock, and wonder if this is what my life will always look like. Will I ever be free from this pressure? Will I ever be able to breathe without feeling like the weight of the world is pressing down on me? It's a scary thought, but I try to hold on to hope, even if it's fragile. Coping isn't easy. I find little ways to get through the day, listening to music, texting a friend, or just stepping outside for a breath of fresh air. I remind myself that this is temporary, that things can change, even if it doesn't feel that way right now. But some days the hopelessness creeps in, and it's hard to shake. I get jealous of people who seem to have it all figured out, who don't have to count every penny or stress about the next bill. It's hard not to feel like I'm falling behind in life. What keeps me going is the small victories, making it through another month without falling behind on rent, finding a cheaper grocery store, getting a little unexpected cash from a side gig. Those moments remind me I'm not completely stuck. I'm still here, still fighting. I don't want to give up on my dreams. I want to believe that someday I'll be able to look back and see this as a rough patch, not the whole story. But right now, it's hard not to feel swallowed up by the constant pressure, the never-ending climb. If I could say something to the world, I'd want people to understand how real this struggle is, how it's not just about numbers on a page, but about real people whose lives get shaped by economic forces way beyond their control. I'm not asking for a handout or sympathy. I just want a fair shot. A chance to breathe. A chance to dream again without feeling like those dreams are out of reach because the system keeps pushing them just a little further away. Until then, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, hoping that one day I'll find a way out of this cycle, a way to live without the constant weight on my chest. That hope is fragile, but it's all I have. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.